know Aaron Rodgers is here because he's trying to win a Super Bowl, close out his Hall of Fame career here. But what's the difference? You're a defensive player, but you see him talking with guys on offense, defense, coaches. In year 2, how is this offense different? How does this team feel different with him?
Man, I mean, it's Aaron. Like, you got certain things. Like, you got Hack, he's a phenomenal offensive coordinator, you know, believe it or not. Aaron, if it's something that Aaron don't like, he's capable of changing the offense, the play call, because he's seen so much defense. It's to the point where, like, he know all the checks and everything, and he makes sure he get the running backs, the line, the receivers, tight ends, everybody on board with him. You know, certain things, like, we just couldn't do it, you know, the past couple years, you know. It's just something that just couldn't be done. You know, just having him on the field, you know, I said it last year, everybody just feels even more confident. I know me, if I play receiver, I would feel much more confident with him on the field, you know, because obviously he's confident. Mm-hmm. So if you playing with somebody who's confident, it's going to naturally make you confident as well. And he's a leader, he back it up, and he got the legacy that's not over with, that he's still building on to speak for himself.
Last question before I let you go. I know it's not about your individual stats, but I did ask Coach Robert Saleh, because you've played so well in your young career, what's his challenge to you? And he said, this year, catch the ball. Yeah. Defensive player of the year, is that sort of where you think you can be? Is that the expectation for yourself?
Oh, yeah, most definitely. I definitely think I could be there, you know, and yeah, catching the ball for sure, because I know what my problem is. It's just always when the ball is in the air, thinking about what I'm about to do already before I even catch the ball. So just catching the ball, like, I know how to catch. That's not the thing, but it's just looking the ball in, catching the ball, and then doing what I got to do. You know, I'll be having the whole picture made when the ball is in the air, and I just got to just chill.
We're staying in the moment this year.
Yeah, most definitely.
Got it. Thank you, Sauce. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate you.
Easier said than done, by the way, to go ahead and come down with those interceptions.
Just chill when it's in there.
Chill. That sounds, simple.
Just chill.
We're going to be seeing pictures of, exactly. Lou knows that well.
Discussion.
These are pictures of the Jets on the field. You see Aaron Rodgers there, and Dan, you think this team is Super Bowl caliber?
Oh, no question about it. I mean, Aaron said it himself. There's 6, 7, 8 teams that realistically can win it. The Jets don't have a flaw talent-wise. The Jets have a question mark health-wise. There's a lot of teams in the NFL that have both of those. They don't have the necessary talent top to bottom to win it, and they obviously have to stay healthy enough to have the chance to. The Jets have a defense that is going to give up about 20 points per game. In the last 2 years, that's what they have averaged. Aaron Rodgers, as a starting quarterback, has never, ever, ever, ever averaged less than 20 points per game. He's got people on the outside that I think Garrett Wilson is a burgeoning star. Burgeoning star. And if this offensive line could be, I think talent-wise, they're a top 10 offensive line. This team could be very good.
Dan.
It's health and history.
You like them.
Yeah, it's health and history with this team, right, Lou?
So you're saying like if they're all healthy,
if Tyron
17
Smith,
games, that's a top 10 offensive line.
John Simpson, Tippmann, AVT, and Morgan Moses or Fashanu are all healthy, I think it's a top 10
I'm a big Joe Tippmann fan.
Yeah, I really do.
Legit, it was Wisconsin. And, Vera Tucker, legit. I mean.
Well, you got Garrett Wilson. You add Mike Williams.
Don't forget Malachi Corley.
Remember Malachi Corley.
Big, strong, explosive backs.
A tremendous running game.
Yeah, and we're mentioning
Are you believing now? Are you starting to believe?
Well, again, I believe in this team's talent. I believe in what this team has, but they're the Jets, and so something always goes wrong. It just does.
You know, you put it well though. You said this team doesn't have a talent issue; it has a dependability issue in terms of availability.
Absolutely.
Like that's the issue. Like if you just look at their roster and say these guys are going to play 15 or more games, all these 22 starters, you're saying, look, you're in there. They have a chance. And I agree there. I agree there.
If they all stay healthy, if they're all out there, this is going to be one of the best teams in football.
It's I remember we called the Dolphins-Tennessee game, week 13 or something last year. The Dolphins were blitzing everybody. They were the 1 seed in the AFC playoffs, and then they went through that mass. 5, 6 starters get lost. And all of a sudden they go from a great team.
Yeah.
And this is the biggest finger cross in my time being a part of the NFL that I've ever been. You got to cross your fingers on the left tackle, the left guard, the right tackle. Unlikely. I'm aware of that because that's a league. But if it happens.
Is it because they have a depth problem, or you're just more saying that the projected starters are that good that anything behind them, is not going to get them where they need to go? You see what I'm saying?
Yes, absolutely. They cannot afford to, really, the interior three, Simpson, Tippmann, and AVT, they can't afford to lose those three. Because they have 3 tackles that they hopefully get through the season with. And they also have a quarterback that doesn't give the ball away in a defense that is dominant.
Yeah, what's interesting, you make a great point there, Laura. I think on the perimeter, on the offensive line, look, between Carter Warren, who was I believe, a 4th-round pick out of Pitt 2 years ago, and then you have Olafashinu from this year. You would hope that maybe if they had some issues at the starters with Morgan,
okay.
and Tyron, maybe they could plug them in. But the interior 3, you got to keep those guys solid.
No doubt.
Yeah,
it's
And we reference the offense because the defense is that stacked and so good that the questions, even injury-wise, would potentially be there. We'll see if they can get Hassan Reddick's deal done as well. The Chiefs won back-to-back Super Bowls last season, the first repeat champion since the Tom Brady-led 2003 and 2004 Patriots, and will now try to become the first team to win 3 straight Super Bowl titles. For the last three-peat across the Big 4 sports leagues, you got to go back to Shaq and Kobe's Laker teams in the early 2000s. It's so difficult to win a Super Bowl. It's difficult to win a championship in any league, in any sport, as we take you to Chiefs camp, which was, of course, happening earlier today. But yet, it feels like this team could actually do it. They're that talented. They've added some pieces, of course. They added Hollywood Brown. They drafted Xavier Worthy, adding lightning-quick speed to this offense. And Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce, which you see right there in the middle of your screen, are back. Andy Reid as well, Dan. The defense should be solid. How do you count them out?
Oh, you don't. I think they're a better football team now than they were last year. I mean, absolutely. I don't even think it's close. And that's with a ton of respect to L'Jarius Sneed, who was their all-pro corner that went to the Tennessee Titans. But if we're being honest, this was a football team that did not play good football for the majority of last season.
No.
Absolutely credit them. They played their best football when it mattered the most. And then number 15, Patrick Mahomes, made the plays every single time necessary in the playoffs. But they're going to be just as good up front, if not better. They have significantly more speed on the perimeter than they did last year. Pacheco going into his 3rd year in a defense that is only getting better because the defense is mainly young guys and Chris Jones. And so I think that this football team is going to be markedly improved, certainly in the regular season, and we know who they are in the playoffs.
There's so much continuity here, starting at the very top. A general manager who's been with the head coach for years, going way back before they were even in Kansas City. When Brett Veach was coming over into my office when I was in Philadelphia, and we were just talking about, just life in general. They know each other perfectly.
Yeah.
They're, the head coach Andy Reid's relationship with Rick Burkholder, who's the head trainer down there, who's one of the very best in the world. Everything's always in lockstep. Everything's always very seamless. They have a scouting department and a scouting philosophy that's very much so in lockstep with what the coaches are looking for. The coaches haven't changed very much. Doug Peterson, Matt Nagy, Doug Peterson leaves, Matt Nagy steps up, Matt Nagy leaves, Matt Nagy comes back. The offense stays the same. Spags is still the same. David Merritt's still there, the defensive back coach. The special teams has remained the same. And what Brett has done, the general manager, Brett Veach, as far as retooling this defense, you're right. This is no disrespect to L'Jarius Sneed, because the cool thing about it is they drafted him. They developed him into what he became, and they were like, hey, you know what? We can't afford to keep you, dude. Go get yours. But they've drafted a ton of other young DBs that are 2-time Super Bowl experienced players going into their 3rd year. Patrick talks preseason, and he's ticked off. He's like, yeah, we won the Super Bowl, but we stunk.
Right.
I know.
Now we got some people.
He had a bad year by his standards.
It's unbelievable what's happening there.
He had a bad year. Career low 7 yards per attempt. Career high 14 interceptions. Career low total QBR. And they still won their 8th consecutive AFC West title and their 2nd straight Super Bowl. That was the chance to get them last year. They didn't get them.
Correct.
And by the way, Patrick Mahomes turned on the Mahomes superhero cape type plays and all those things in the postseason. So he deserves a ton of credit for what he did then. But to everyone's point, the offense wasn't what it will be. NFL Live Back Together weekend rolls on as we go to Denver now. The Broncos practicing their training camp earlier today, and there is a three-way quarterback competition there. Of course, they did draft Bo Nix, and that's something to keep an eye on. You've got Jarrett Stidham there, as well as Zach Wilson, who's trying to bring his career back as he, of course, has departed from the Jets. Let's bring Jeremy Fowler in here. You've got a chance to watch this Broncos practice this afternoon, Jeremy. What have you learned, especially about the quarterbacks?
Yeah, Laura, I just walked off the practice field. I watched all three quarterbacks trade shots all day, throwing a series of passes. And I got to tell you, from talking to people here on the ground with the team, they are very impressed with Bo Nix. They feel like they have something. There's not a sentiment of like, oh, he's coming along, or oh, rookies need time. It's like, no, he's impressive. They just feel like he's able to process information at the line of scrimmage at a high level for a rookie. It showed today. He threw an interception, came back with 3 straight touchdown passes in a hurry. So he's making his case, but Jarrett Stidham, Zach Wilson, certainly still in the mix. They made a series of good throws today, too. Sean Payton hoping for a little Bill Parcells magic with Zach Wilson, because Parcells always taught him, take what was once a high asset, former first-round pick. If you're able to get him at a low cost like they did with Wilson in a trade, they've got pedigree, could show to be something down the road. So they're hopeful. On the team front, Patrick Surtain, all-star corner, told me the Broncos are, quote, young and hungry. He believes that they got a lot of talent to maybe surprise some people this year. Not necessarily a trendy Super Bowl pick. He's aiming to change that.
I love it. I love the confidence from the young man, and he's certainly got a whole lot of talent himself. Thanks to Jeremy Fowler for joining us from Denver. Now, it feels like Sean Payton is one of these coaches, Dan, that really likes to say, I'm a quarterback guy. I want to kind of hand select some quarterbacks. That gives me a lot of confidence in Bo Nix, and knowing that he felt like Bo Nix could process the way he wanted him to, as Jeremy's alluding to. Is Bo Nix, you think, the right choice to run this offense and try to get some semblance of success at quarterback, which they've been lacking in Denver for quite some time?
Bo Nix will be the week 1 starter, and he should be. If we had to ask the things that Sean Payton really values, from huddle, break huddle to the line of scrimmage and quarterback play, you better be able to handle a lot of changes, because Sean Payton's going to roll different people on the field personnel-wise, a bunch of different formations. You have to handle all the verbiage of that. So intellectually, you have to have it at a high level, and then you have to be able to communicate it. Well, 61 college starts, and being able to do that for 2 different places is going to help. Number 2, you have to have really good accuracy at all different levels of the field. This isn't like some guys come in, you're like, man, he's really good at the deep ball, but he's got to get better, like a Zach Wilson, at the underneath stuff and the short stuff. He's got high level ball placement at all of it. And then you've got to have above average pocket skills and athleticism. Bo Nix has that. Bo Nix will be their week 1 starter.
And they had a man crush on him coming out of college.
The old man crush.
They were enamored with this guy during the course of the entire process leading up to the NFL draft until they drafted him in the 1st round. And they are intrigued with Zach Wilson, who they got in a trade from the New York Jets, and they like Jarrett Stidham. But I think it's hard not to look at Bo Nix as the guy to beat for that job. I think it's his job to lose this summer. And as long as he goes out and plays the way that they think he's going to, I think he's the leader. But again, he's still got to go out and earn it this summer, but it's set up, I believe, for him to win that job, Dan.
In my time of talking to Sean Payton, he has a very particular profile as far as what he wants out of players. And every time, the common thread amongst all positions, and Sean can talk about every position on the team. When you talk to him in a production meeting, he'll go through the entire roster. Yeah,
he's great like that.
And give you like details and nuggets on every single person, some that you can use, some that you probably shouldn't use. But I can say this, when it comes to quarterback play, Dan, you touched on it perfectly. I think it's mental horsepower.
Yeah.
How much processing horsepower do you have? Bo Nix completed what? Almost 80% of his passes this past year. And people go, well, what was his yards per attempt? Well, it was up there too. So it wasn't just a bunch of little screens. And I understand that it's Oregon, right? And this is the NFL. But he has the traits into mental horsepower that Sean would want. And when we were down there at the Senior Bowl and watched him play on the practice field, when you talk about throwing an interception, coming back and throwing a couple touchdowns, that's what he was like during those practices. Nothing fazed him.
Weathered.
Nothing fazed him. He was like, okay, I'm going to move on to the next play and the next play and the next play. People were like, well, what's it like working under center? I'm good. I'm working at it. Every day it got better, it got better, it got better. It's a Sean Payton guy.
Yeah. You go back to his time in college and the journey that he took from Auburn and then to Oregon. He's got experience, too, which I think as a young player being drafted is something you can't overlook.